Last night I was playing with Blood, Mordius and Hollow, and Blood gave me this Howitzer deck to try out. Of course, with our luck we queue into 3 competitive players, but things actually went really well. I'll give you guys the deck so you can try out for yourself, and then we'll talk about the gameplay, which is the most important part of this build in my opinion, because the deck is 100% damage, and so you rely on positioning and decision making and sometimes a bit of luck. The full build is in the description below. You want to start with your Bump Juice, Mana Potion and Scout Sword. You then want to grab your Sage's Ward as soon as you have 5 points, selling your Scout's Ward for the 6th point to max the card out. If you have to back earlier like I did, that's no big deal. The aim here is just to farm while my jungler ganks the lanes and do all the things a mid laner should do. If you're not too sure, then check out my mid lane video. When it's time to gank my lane, Blood Mordius roots Gideon, I land a Q and he phantom rushes to finish her off, and then back to farming. As I'm chilling in mid lane, I'm pretty oblivious to the fact that my Gideon is missing. Okay, it was late and yes, I may have been drinking, but anyways, I eventually noticed, and that's all that matters, right? My gadget manages to kill Decker and is so close to killing Murdoch, but he decides to run across my line of sight and gets an R2000 rocket to the face. I use my mind for a little escape and I'm out. In the end, if you make the rotation and secure the kill, that's great, but if you can do it earlier to keep your allies alive, that's probably a better idea. I've now maxed out my Meltdown and I'm pretty strong at this point, having only invested in damage. Well, I mean, I can only invest in damage because it's a full damage build anyways. So with my team nearby and Decker completely oblivious, Blood Mordius roots her, and of course he uses his ultimate while I use my Q, so I kind of fucked up. But anyways, we eventually killed the Decker after many missed autos, and perhaps I should have given the kill to our carry, but honestly a lot of competitive teams have been running Howitzer carry, so I think it's safe on him. My next back, I decide to get a Fountain Spike just because it provides a little bit of mana. Of course, I'm still throwing damage into it. I then head back into mid lane and continue farming with my team again, looking for a team fight. The reason we're so aggressive is because 1. Kills provide insane CP, 2. Once you get ahead, you should just abuse this advantage and constantly take team fights because you're ahead and you'll most likely win, and 3. Because it allows our carry to free farm if most of their enemies are concentrated in the middle lane. Our Decker does what all Deckers should do: initiate. And she does exactly that with a great stun on Satori Cloak, who is pushing way too far out from her tower. Comboed with a Sevrog root, Gideon gets an R2000 missile to meet his maker. The Decker cage wasn't even quick enough to save him. Now, watch the top left of the screen. We've got a Sevrog versus Sevrog as Hectic Chris gets battered by Blood Mordius into mid lane. I get my landmine ready because you know he's going to phantom rush away. I knock him back and he's another easy kill. I'm sorry Hectic Chris, I know you're a viewer, but I have to assert my dominance. As we finish off the Decker, the enemy Howie ults, and so do I. I'm actually not sure why I ulted, but you know, alcohol. So having just killed 3 of them, we decide to push middle lane, and the tower is ours easily. Notice throughout this whole fight, our carry was getting free farm on the right side. I mean, the great player that Hollow is, he recognized that he had enough time to push their tier 2 tower and get out. Losing jump pads at 20 minutes is a huge blow. You lose so much map control. I decide to recall and max out my Fountain Spike, and again it's back to farming middle lane. There'll be points in the game where nothing happens for a while, and at this point we decided we're best off doing the raptor camps for our carry to get him even further ahead, and the enemy can't really contest because we'll just win another team fight being that we're so far ahead. But in general, if you see enemies on the right side of the map or on the opposite side of where the raptors are, you should definitely try and at least get one of them if you can. Denying the enemy that is huge. I then head back to mid lane because again, farm. I'm going to reiterate that a lot because, well, it wins games. Just hopefully you can last hit better than I did in this game because I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty shit. While I'm peacefully farming, minding my own business, not causing any trouble, Decker, being a pain in the ass, decides to stun me for a Murdoch snipe. But fortunately the Howie was busy farming, so he didn't kill me. See, all Howies want to do is farm. Choking, die motherfucker! I then decide to recall because honestly, don't ever die for a tower unless it's an inhibitor. I grab my Staff of Adamant because, well, mana, and we're pretty far ahead, so every point we can spend to get more damage just means we're even more powerful than they are. Whereas like if you have 31 card points but you only spent 23 and the enemy is at 23 card points with 23 spent, well then you're technically ahead but you have no advantage because you never spent those points. So I try to spend as much as possible when I'm ahead. At this point my team go for prime with 2 dead and a Sevrog on the left, it should be pretty easy. I had left because we don't need 5 people there to secure it at the cost of a tier 2 tower, so I scurry on over to save the tier 2 tower, at which point we have secured Orb Prime and a kill on Gideon, but the enemy team managed to get a 2 for 2, which is pretty good for them considering we got 32 kills and they had 7. Ideally you want to do orb when you get a pick on the enemy carry. You can also do the orb if enemies show on the opposite side of the map, because rotating does take some time, and if you have a carry with a decent amount of card points, killing Orb Prime should be pretty easy. We group up as a 3 to push mid. That's something you should be doing with your teammates once you have Orb Prime. Definitely don't waste the time you have with it. Now I honestly thought we could get the inhibitor here, but we only end up getting a tier 2 as the enemy team respawn. It becomes a 3 versus 5. I use my ult to avoid dying, so it was pretty much wasted, and Gadget also ends up using her ultimate to get Sevrog off her, but I use my mind to peel for her and we secure another easy kill on him, but the chance to get the inhibitor has now passed. We reset our lanes to make sure they're pushing for us before we go down to take their inhibitor. Lane management is vital in this game. Minions will take your tower if you stack them correctly, and you don't want to take fights when your waves are against you. If you lose that fight, the enemy can take 1 or 2 towers or maybe an inhibitor, but if you win, you still have to go back and de-push rather than taking objectives. Our Sevrog caught the Murdoch as you just saw, and now it's a free inhibitor with the enemy de-pushing their other lanes. We don't want to get too greedy, so we take the inhibitor and back off. It's our game to lose at this point. If we pushed the core and we died, our lanes are pushing against us, the enemy team could have potentially ended, so why risk it when we've been dominating for almost 30 minutes? We de-push our lanes, waiting for Prime to spawn, manage to pick Howitzer, and then Decker comes racing in. But no, she's not stealing shit today as she dies, and from there, with 2 dead and us having Orb Prime, it's pretty much GG as we rush to mid to end the game. I hope you guys enjoyed this different style of build and guide. Let me know if you did. I'm trying to provide some variety. The full build will be in the description below and on agora.gg. Also, I'll put a link to Blood Mortis' YouTube channel in the description below, so definitely check him out. Smash that thumbs up button and I'll see you guys soon.